Welcome to Proof of Ergo, episode 13. I'm James Kever. Ergodex was the first UTXO decentralized exchange built on the Ergo blockchain. It has since rebranded into what we now know as Spectrum Finance and has its sights set on bridging Ergo assets with Cardano assets, offering new features like liquidity mining, allowing users to support the protocol and earn value at the same time. Our next guest, Gazza, community manager for Spectrum Finance, has all the details on where the project stands today and how the recent IDO for the Spectrum native token went, and what a lot of you out there are very interested in, yield farming, how it works, and how you can get in on that. Gazza, thank you so much for calling in.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
So let's dive right in. Spectrum Finance has been killing it with developments and features. Can you give us a quick rundown of where Spectrum Finance stands today and briefly discuss what users can expect moving forward?
Yeah, so we're on mainnet on Ergo anyway. We have it for quite some time now. We're still adding new features all the time. Currently, the big next step is yield farming, as you mentioned. So that's in development at the moment. It's nearly there. We're actually doing private testing, so that should be launched pretty soon now. On Cardano, we're still on testnet. There was some delays in development, but we're very close to that also. We have a lot of big updates pushed at the moment. So we're aiming for mainnet in March, and that's looking pretty good at the moment. And then the other side of it is our layer 2 solution, Spectrum Network. We're also building that at the moment. So progress on that is going quite good as well.
Yeah, I've got lots of questions about that. But first, recently Spectrum Finance launched their native token with the help of ErgoPad, sponsors of this show. How did that go?
Brilliant. Like, we've worked with ErgoPad quite a lot over the last year, and they're just an absolute pleasure to work with. We had some extra kind of requests for this IDO, and we had no issues working with them to get things going. We launched our liquidity pool there mid-February, and it's all live now. So after a year of debating about Project Token, it's finally live. So it's good to see the SPF token live.
Awesome. What about the airdrop? How's that going?
Yeah, that's working away. So we have it vested. So users that use the DEX were able to get an airdrop. So it was calculated by kind of erg weight. So people now have been able to claim their first part of the vesting. So yeah, over the next 6 months now, people will be able to claim the rest of it and do with it what they want.
Perfect. Now, what about those folks who missed all the IDO action? How do they get their hands on the SPF native token today?
So currently, the only way would be to purchase it directly on the DEX. But once we have yield farming available, people will actually be able to provide yield and get rewards in SPF token.
All right. Now, I know a lot of people are very interested in the liquidity mining or yield farming, as most people refer to it as. How is this going to work, and what do folks need to do to participate?
So I guess I'm probably better off explaining what yield farming is. Yield farming is a process of, if you have a liquidity pool, you can add rewards on top of that liquidity pool. So if people add liquidity, they get liquidity pool tokens. So we'll use an example of the ERG SPF pool. So they'll get liquidity tokens after providing liquidity. They can then stake these liquidity tokens, and there'll be a daily payout of SPF out of that. We'll create a liquidity yield farm. Every day there'll be an emission of a certain amount of SPF tokens that we specify, and depending how much weight you have in that stake of this relative to the entire pool, you will get a payout every day then of SPF tokens just for providing liquidity to that pool. So it's a great way to incentivize people to actually provide liquidity. And it's also a way to offset the risk of impermanent loss, which is always a risk in any kind of DeFi.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are the risks associated with yield farming? Are there any?
Not with yield farming itself, no, but there is inherent risk in DeFi with impermanent loss in a liquidity pool. So when you add liquidity to a liquidity pool, the price of one asset changing against the other can create impermanent loss. So it's called impermanent because unless you sell, then you're not making the loss. But that's why yield farming can kind of offset this risk. So yield farming itself there's no risk in it.
All right. All right, let's talk about ErgoPay support for mobile users. How's that feature coming along?
It's excellent. Yeah, that was a big one, I think. That was a huge step forward for us. We know now that so many users only use their phones. They don't really have access. A lot of people don't even have access to a computer. It's all mobile. So bringing mobile support was a big feature. We have had a lot of people using it. You can do everything from your phone now. You can swap, you can add and remove liquidity, you can check prices. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I think that was a massive step forward for us for the user experience for everyone.
Awesome. All right, moving over to the Cardano side of things, the Vasil upgrade significantly improved Cardano's capabilities. I'm curious how Spectrum is taking advantage of these improvements, and when can users expect to see some of these features go live?
So it's looking like March, as I was saying before. We're pretty confident now that we'll be able to launch in March. We're excited for that because Cardano, it's been a bit of a grind, to be honest, to get it out. It was a kind of less mature ecosystem to begin with, so it took a lot more time to get it running. A lot of projects had the same kind of issues, but we're in the final run now. We're pretty happy with our off-chain services or on-chain. It's looking pretty solid. So hopefully the next month now we'll be moving on to mainnet and people can use the open source decks we've built.
Yeah, exciting stuff. I know Spectrum Finance is aiming to bridge both Ergo assets and Cardano assets. How do you plan to do that exactly, and when can users expect to see those features?
So that's our layer 2 solution we're building. It's called Spectrum Network. It'll be a sidechain. It's going to allow users to do native cross-chain swaps between Ergo and Cardano initially. So there won't be any wrapped assets. You can swap directly on the sidechain Spectrum Network.
Yeah, let's dive into this a little deeper. So Spectrum Network is a sidechain. You also call it a layer 2 solution. What does this mean exactly, and how is it going to interface with Ergo and Cardano?
So users will be able to send their native assets onto this chain. So we'll support both Ergo assets and Cardano native assets. Users will be able to send them to this chain, and they'll be able to transfer between both chains then on this side chain.
Is it all open source?
Of course, yeah. Everything we do is open source. That's one of the pillars we've built on from the start. Open source is essential, especially with the amount of FUD we've seen recently about exchanges having issues and everything. You need to be open source. People need to be able to check what they're using and verify.
Wow. All right, how about a white paper? Is there a white paper folks can read to learn more?
It's going to be released soon, so our core developer, Ilya, is currently developing it. It's on the way. I've had a quick look at the draft. It's looking really good, so I think people will be excited to read that. It's going to be issued pretty soon.
Perfect. All right, so the Spectrum Network is your layer 2 solution. It's going to bridge assets like Cardano and Ergo, but is that it for Spectrum Network, or will it eventually support other blockchains like, say, Ethereum, for example?
Definitely. The long-term goal is to have it interoperable with multiple blockchains. Going forward, I think cross-chain is essential in this area of technology. So Ethereum especially is just the biggest pool you could get of liquidity in all of DeFi. So it makes sense to go to that next after we get Cardano and Ergo.
Exciting stuff. Anything else you want to add, Gazza?
No, I just want to say thanks to everyone for helping us get where we are. We've been working for about a year and a half now in this project, and we all the same people are still here. We're still happy building, and we've got a great community up to this point. If you look at even the total value locked on our decks compared to much bigger chains, it's huge. So people are using the services. So it's a pleasure to provide it.
Awesome. Community manager for Spectrum Finance, the UTXO decentralized exchange on the Ergo network. Gazza, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, James.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes episode 13 of Proof of Ergo. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. A quick reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're into audio-only podcasts, you can catch Proof of Ergo on all the major podcast platforms. And finally, a very special thanks to sponsors of this show, ErgoPad, the premier launchpad on the Ergo network, the first to offer layer 2 staking for the ErgoPad token, and for many of the other projects they help launch as well. If you'd like to learn more, just head on over to ergopad.io. I'm James Kever. Thanks again for watching Proof of Ergo.